Now we're getting into one of my favorite parts of the audition preparation guide, the 3 eyes of vertical movement. This gives us an opportunity to create your own close-up in a self-tape. You don't have a camera person, right? You don't have the benefit of a casting director being 6 or 7 feet away from you. But what you do have is the ability to create your own close-up. You know where your mark is, you know where your frame is, and you can step in when you need to convey something. So the 3 forms are intimidation, interrogation, and intimacy. The first 2 are often used in procedurals and crime dramas to create tension, right? Intimidation, a gangbanger and a victim. Interrogation, cop and witness. And then the third one is intimacy. And as we already talked about, intimacy doesn't have to just be romantic. It could be family members or teammates or colleagues or the end of a blind date. Do I go in for the kiss? Do I not go in for the kiss? Do I go in for the hug? Oh, the handshake, not the hug. This is awkward, right? So to convey the right emotional moment, you might choose to step in closer to the frame. If I'm ending a blind date, that's really great. Maybe it went really well. Why wouldn't I go from here to maybe I can't wait to see you again? That would be awesome, right? Now you've just created a little bit of intimacy. Just be choosy. Save it for the culmination of the scene, the last few beats or the last couple of lines of dialogue. And once you've stepped in, stay in, especially for the intimidation and the interrogation. Because if you move your energy back, you've now reduced the tension and eliminated that magic moment that you just created. Use it sparingly. So if you have 3 scenes for a guest star audition, you probably shouldn't end all 3 of them with a step in, right? You can't really justify that. Save it for when you're confronting your enemy or when you're ready to confess your love to your partner there. But don't do it in the other scenes of the same audition. When we work on self-tapes, we typically have a mark, right? Right there on the ground, the T, and we stick to it. That's great. It ensures we're in focus, we're well lit, and we're seen by casting. The lights pick us up here. We try and eliminate the shadows, but we might be missing an opportunity to create stronger relationships by using some geography. DPs, director of photographies, and still photographers, they break a frame into 3 vertical and 3 horizontal thirds for a total of 9 equal-sized frames. We're not going to really focus on that. That's really deep, but you can Google the rule of thirds in photography and watch some videos about it. But we're going to talk about how to focus on the horizontal movement to utilize these vertical thirds. So imagine lines dividing your screen into 3 vertical rectangles. Most of the time we stay here in the center. But we're going to talk about using the far third and the near third to take advantage in your self-tapes. We've already talked about the 3 eyes of vertical movement to create our own close-up, and this is a really good follow-up to that topic. So let's assume your audition scene is with someone that you just found out is cheating on you. Okay, you can do that scene just like you normally would in the middle of the frame. Normal, just like this. Can't believe you're cheating. Can't believe you're cheating on me. Okay, cool. But now, what if I shift to the far third away from my reader? This really creates negative space. It creates a subconscious, nonverbal impression of distance, of space, of a fracture. There's a fracture in the relationship, right? We don't have to take a big step. We can just shift our hip. My mark is right here, and I'm just shifting in my chair. I would do the audition standing up, but you get the idea. So we've got negative space where I'm in the far third from my reader. Wow. Let's look at a few examples. This first example, Caroline, look how strong and intense she looks. She's got her military jacket on. This is a guest star for something like NCIS. And she needs to be a very strong, alpha, defensive witness with a wall up. She's being interrogated by federal agents. Look how she's slightly off-center, farther away. Look how strong and defensive she looks. That distance that she's created, it allows her to have a stronger connection, even though she's geographically farther away. It creates a really solid visual for casting. This isn't going to work all the time, But this is something that you can choose to play with in your taping room. It's something you can play with in rehearsal, in class. Maybe you do one comfy in the middle. Maybe you do a take farther away, and you choose the one that you like best. Me in a suit, a smarmy lawyer type. And you can see that I'm using negative space to create distance in this lawyer-witness relationship. It's very subtle, and I don't stay there the whole scene. I use it when I'm trying to convey a point to the audience, and the audience is casting or production or whomever. So that's an example for our far third. Conversely, let's say your scene takes place at the end of a first date and the date's been going really well and it's getting close to that time to say goodbye. Maybe you'd like to get a little closer than just being in the middle third. Maybe you're leaning in for a hug and a kiss. So by giving yourself a slight lean on the hip closest to the reader, you've actually placed them in the third closest to you, or placed yourself closest to them. Much like the three eyes of vertical movement, one of them is intimacy. So that slight horizontal movement, you're now putting the negative space away from you, outside of the reader over there. So now, by getting just a little bit closer, you can create some intimacy with them. Creating that negative space behind you or away from you, we're subconsciously saying, hey, we're letting the world disappear. We're letting all this noise disappear. So with horizontal movement, you can employ that almost anywhere during the part of a scene that works for you. And you can move into and out of that horizontal movement because it's just a subtle hip move, right? Baby step. And you don't have to stay there forever. The difference with the vertical movement is that kind of seals the deal because you're much closer to the camera and you give up and weaken your power if you step back, if you break that moment, right? Or you weaken that intimacy. Unless you're going to use it for really comedic effect. It doesn't work as well. So hold your ground with the vertical movements. Now that you understand vertical movement and horizontal movement, you can kind of figure out where it needs to go. So let's look at two really good examples of the near third or slightly more intimate. With the first one, we've got Katie, all charming and cute. Look at that cute little sweater. And this is a bubbly scene at the end of a first date. It's been going well, and she's just sort of subtly leaned. You can see it ever so off-center, closer to the reader. Doesn't it give us a nice sense of potential? Maybe it gives us a sense of a hug that's going to happen, maybe a kiss. But we're rooting for her because of that, right? Now let's look at another example. Caroline again. Caroline is auditioning for a doctor. This is like a resident or a Grey's Anatomy style guest star. And when you get a guest star, one of them might be that doctor that needs to show empathy or a great bedside manner. And what better way to use that for extra dramatic effect than to use the near third? So Caroline leaned over slightly. You can see that she's just off center and that little subtle smirk that she has. She's creating a relationship. So she's now creating some intimacy horizontally with the reader. Now we've got two examples of the far third, two examples of the near third. Try it with your next audition opportunity that you get. Maybe you record one where you stay static in the center third, and maybe you try a little bit of horizontal movement. Or you could also employ some of those vertical opportunities from the three eyes of vertical movement and see if those work for you. Just have fun. Another concept that you might hear teachers talk about is the eyeline triangle. And this is a concept utilized especially in self-tapes. But you can use it to your advantage in an in-person audition as well. It's going to require a little bit of a visual. So I'm going to kind of point it out to you right now, and then I'm going to show you two self-tape examples. The triangle begins with you. You are the point of the triangle. The middle of your chest is the point of the triangle. Now extend your arms out, right out in front of you and out ever so slightly. We're kind of making 2/3 of the triangle. Now, over here where the camera is, that's the other part of the triangle. Imagine for visual purposes a pizza slice. The point of the pizza slice, the long sides of the pizza slice, and where the camera is, that's the crust. So everything must play within the crust. If I have my primary eyeline here, my secondary eyeline there, it's not here and it's not here. Why? Because now my camera is only picking up my ear, the side of my head, and that's not good. What I do is I come to the other side of camera, boom, and now there's my second eye line. So I'm in the middle of all this. And if I'm engaging and, oh my, there's a gunshot. It still plays here. The camera can pick up my reaction from both sides. Avoid profiles. This is really, really helpful when there's a sound effect or something off camera that the actor, the character needs to see or hear or feel. Here's my general rule of thumb. Keeping in mind your eyeline triangle, your primary and most important engagement, the character you're engaging with, that's eyeline number one. It doesn't matter which side you start on, but that's eyeline number one. Your second eyeline, the character of second most important, you split the lens. Now we've got an even balanced triangle. If there's a third character, a third eyeline, put them on the same side as eyeline 2, just slightly outside. So there's two distinct eyelines over here. Then if there's a fourth eyeline, let's say a waiter comes in and says, hey, anybody want any dessert? You put them outside eyeline number 1. You want to leave the primary person you're engaging with alone for as long as possible. So, a quick review. You are the point of the triangle or the point of the pizza. Your arms are the slice of the pizza, for example. And then the camera is the crust. Everything plays within the pizza slice. Your eye lines will always take place inside. That way you're giving yourself maximum exposure and visibility to the camera for your self-tape and for your eye lines to be caught. 1 is the primary person you're dealing with, 2 is on the other side of frame, 3 is over here, and then 4 goes out here also. Whew, that's a lot. Have fun putting it into practice.